Hey everyone, I'm Joanne Smith and welcome to Joanne's Corner. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a quilt out of log cabin quilt blocks. If you don't know how to make a log cabin quilt block, check in the description below this video and I'm going to post a link of one of my videos showing how to make the log cabin quilt block. You're going to need 12 of the log cabin quilt blocks cut down to the size of 12 inches by 12 inches. Also, you're going to need fabric for the back, you're going to need batting, and you're going to need fabric for your sashing. First of all, lay all your blocks on the floor in the order that you want them on your quilt, and we want to do 3 across and 4 down. I recommend taking a picture with your phone, that way you'll remember what order that your blocks are in case they get mixed up. This is our first row of quilt blocks, and we're going to work from left to right. But what we're going to do, we're going to put some sashing in between these. And for our first row, we need 4 pieces that are 3.5 inches wide by 12 inches tall. Our first piece of sashing we're going to put to the left side of our first block. And we're going to put it right sides together. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam from top to bottom. After you get it sewed together, then bring it to your iron. And we want to press it. You can press it to the left or right, but I'm pressing mine back to the left because that's where my darker fabric is. So press it on the back, flip it over, and press it on the front. And I'm pressing from the inside toward the outside. Next, we're still working on our first block, and we're going to take another piece of sashing that's 3.5 inches wide by 12 inches long. We're going to put it right sides together, and we're going to sew from the top to the bottom a 1/4 inch seam. We're going to do this one the same way. We're going to flip it over. We're going to press it toward our dark fabric. And then we're going to flip it over and press the front. Next, we're going to add our second quilt block. And what we need to do is just flip this right sides together and line up our edges and sew a 1/4 inch seam from top to bottom. After you've sewed the block on, just flip it over, press it on the back toward your dark fabric. Then flip it over and press the front. We're working from left to right, so we need to add another piece of sashing. Flip it right sides together, sew a 1/4 inch seam from top to bottom. Bring it to your ironing board, flip it over, press the back. Flip it over and press the front. Now it's time to add our third quilt block. So we just flip it over, right sides together, line it up with our edges, sew a 1/4 inch from top to bottom. Flip it over, press toward your dark fabric, flip it back over to the front, and press that. It should be looking something like this. And we're going to take our last piece of sashing for this row, and we're going to put it down here at the very end. Put our right sides together, sew a 1/4 inch seam from the top to the bottom. Flip it over, press, and then flip it over to the front, and press again. And this is what our first row looks like, all sewn together. We need to repeat the same method for the remaining 3 rows. After you get your rows sewn together, it should look something like this. And now we're going to work on our horizontal sashing. For our horizontal sashing, we're going to need 5 strips of material that measures 3.5 inches wide by 46 inches long. And I have a strip of fabric here, and it's not quite that long, so I'm going to have to add some length to it. And what I'm going to do is put right sides together and take this to my sewing machine and sew 1/4 of an inch right down through here. My piece is still not long enough, so I'm just going to open this piece up that I just sewed, and I'm going to put this other strip right sides together at the end and sew 1/4 of an inch right down through here. Now that we have the 2 pieces sewed on here to make the exact length, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to press these seams open. You can do that with your finger or you can do that with your iron. Just press it open and come down here to the other seam and press it open. And then just flip it over and press it on the front. Now we're going to take our first row of quilt blocks and we're going to add our first strip of horizontal sashing. And this is our first row. This is the top of it. And what we're going to do is take our sashing and put it right sides together. And we're going to take it to our sewing machine and we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch from this end all the way to that end. And just be sure to keep your edges lined up and take your time. And then we're going to take a strip. After we do that, we're going to open it up. We're going to press it on the front and press it on the back. Then we're going to take another strip down here at the bottom. And we're going to do it the same way, only we're going to flip it up, put it right sides together, so 1/4 of an inch seam from the left all the way down to the end. Now, if you had rather pin or clip the edge of this, that's totally fine. I'm just going to wing it here and just keep your edge lined up and take your time and just sew 1/4 of an inch. You need to stop, line up the edge. Now, as you can see, I have a little excess fabric here at the end, and that's okay. We'll trim that off in a minute. But I want you to flip this over to the back, and we're going to press this on the back and the front. And just press toward the darker fabric. And just press all the way down. And then we're going to flip it over and press the front. Now we're ready to add the second strip of our sashing, and we're just going to do it like we did the first row. Just put your right sides together, line up your edges, sew 1/4 of an inch seam from left all the way to the right. Then we're going to open it up, bring it back to our iron the back, and then iron our front. And then we're going to do our next row of blocks. Let me push this up a little bit. And we're going to do it the same way. We're just going to put this right sides together. And we're going to line up our edges and sew 1/4 of an inch seam from left all the way to right. Open it up, take it to our iron, and press our seams on the back and on the front. And we're going to do the same method all the way down to the bottom of our quilt. Hey everyone, we're putting together our quilt sandwich. So we'll have our quilt top on the top, we have our batting in the middle, and then we have our backing fabric on the back. And make sure that your backing fabric is right side down. And you can use basting spray and attach each row together or each layer together, or you can pin it. I have some quilting pins here, so I'm going to pin this, and then we're going to take it to our sewing machine and we're going to do some quilting on it. But make sure that your batting is wider than your quilt top, and also your backing piece is wider even, because we're going to leave probably at the end of this, after we get it quilted, we're going to leave about an inch all the way around, we'll have to trim it up, and I'll show you how we're going to use the back piece for our binding. I've got some free motion quilting done, and now I'm going to go all the way around my quilt and just trim the batting area first and trim it up even with my quilt top, and then I'm going to go around and trim my back fabric to where it's about an inch or inch and a half away from the edge all the way around. Okay, now it's time to do our binding, and we're going to use our back fabric to do that, and we're going to fold it up right next to our quilt top, and then we're going to fold it one more time, and then we're going to clip it. And we want to do that all the way around. And when you get to a corner, this is what we're going to do at a corner. You want to fold this at a 45-degree angle right up against your quilt top, and then hold that with a finger, and then fold this towards your quilt top just like you did your other side, and then fold it one more time, and that makes your corner. And you might have to waller it around a little bit, but just clip that and then clip this side, and just continue to fold towards your quilt top, and then fold one more time and clip it all the way around. And then we're going to take it to our sewing machine, and we're going to sew a stitch right along the edge all the way around. And that's how you make this beautiful log cabin quilt. If you've enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.